I'm Kate Richards. Today, People and Issues introduces the first program of its series, Profile of an Organization, the Larchmont League of Women Voters. Tonight, we have with us as our guest for the first segment, Mary Joyce Behringer, President of the Larchmont League of Women Voters, Mira Hiemstra, Chairman of the Study Group on National Security, Regina Berenbach, who is first Vice Chairman and in charge of voter service, and Suzanne Carpenter, past President of the Larchmont League of Women Voters. Ladies, welcome to People and Issues. Mary Joyce, I'd like to introduce our discussion by asking you the first question. Can you tell us what are the aims of the League of Women Voters?
Okay, the League of Women Voters needs little introduction to anyone with the mildest interest in politics. It has long been known as one of the most energetic, well-informed, and competent groups operating in the pursuit of better government. The League was formed in 1923 to foster education in citizenship and to support needed legislation, to encourage interest in government and in the nation's problems, and to stimulate activity in public affairs and voter registration. As an organization, the League of Women Voters shall not support or oppose any political party or candidate. We urge efficiency in government and international cooperation to prevent wars.
Can you describe some of your long-term goals?
Well, one long-term goal that the League supports and promotes in all its activities is registration of all qualified voters and having those registered voters become politically active and, most importantly, exercising their franchise by voting at each election. We would like to see greater participation in government. The League offers members the opportunity to participate in our services to voters, and we even have a voter service chairman to handle those activities.
Regina, what are the goals of voter service and how do you accomplish them?
The goals of voter service activities are to educate League members and the public about government and politics and to encourage their participation in government. Some of the activities include registering voters, for instance, community newcomers and high school students. They include making available registration and voting information, for example, at local fields, local fairs, at the schools, to community newcomers. They include providing information on election law and ballot issues. In addition, it includes publishing directories on elected officials and voting information. For instance, we have our Voters Guide in the fall, and our They Represent You brochure, and the This is Larchmont guidebook. It also includes serving as election poll watchers and deputy registrars at election time. And finally, conducting forums for the public to hear the candidates debate the issues.
How do you conduct these forums?
The Successful Candidates Forum is a result of the planning and efforts of many League members. It includes such things as setting an appropriate date, selecting a moderator and a timekeeper, technical requirements such as reserving and setting up the hall, audio-visual equipment, publicity for the event through the local newspaper or direct mail, also through posters. It includes formulating the agenda and rules for the debate, as well as questions to be asked of the candidates. It includes invitations to the candidates, and finally, the rewards of months of planning are realized as each various candidates' night takes place.
Now that we've found out that the League educates its members and the public through its various studies and through voter service, we'd like to find out a little bit more about what's going on right here in Larchmont. Suzanne, can you tell us, how does the League decide upon a particular study? How do they go about it?
Well, Kate, the selection process begins right here in Larchmont. We have a program planning meeting, generally at the end of January or the beginning of February each year. This is in anticipation of the convention that's coming up in the spring. Last spring, we had state convention, which is every 2 years. We got together here and decided about we looked at the positions that we presently had, and we decided whether we would keep these positions or which ones we would give emphasis to. Then we also had some ideas about where we'd like to go with new studies. And one of the things we wanted to do was to have a health care study. We sent our recommendations to the State League Board, after which they, in turn, looked at the recommendations of the other 82 leagues in the state and came back to us at the end of March with ideas about who supported, which issues had the most support. Then our delegates to convention in May worked beforehand trying to interest other leagues in a healthcare study. There were other issues such as hazardous waste management and authorities, state authorities, which were also debated. The delegates then lobbied and chose the health care study.
Mm-hmm. So, once you've decided upon a health care study, how then do you organize yourself? How do you organize the study itself, and how does it function? Mira?
Well, Kate, I'm not going to tell you about a healthcare study, but about the study that I've worked with. The first thing you do, no matter what study you have, is you get yourself a committee. A committee is a group of members who are willing to make a commitment, both to the topic, but also to the duration of the study. In our national security study, we worked with a group of about 7 to 10 members, and that seemed to be just the right size for a study of that scope. So you don't want your committee to be too big, and yet you don't want it to be too small.
Now, your league participated in a national study.
That was a national study. That's right. The second thing you want to do when you organize a study is you want to get as much material as you can possibly lay your hands on. Again, with our national study, we were fortunate because the National League had provided a very lengthy bibliography for us. They had also prepared some pamphlets. Some of these pamphlets were for committees to use, and others were to be distributed among the general membership. We complemented those things with articles from magazines and newspapers. We also watched as many television programs as we could find that pertained to the subject. And altogether, it seemed like this study would involve an incredible amount of reading, and that's why we decided to divide the material by topic, and each one of the members chose one topic. Then the next step is to organize yourself into meetings, and we usually began by meeting once every 2 weeks, but as the study went on and we came closer to the time where we would present our findings to the general membership, we usually started to meet once a week. And then one more thing I want to point out that we did with our study is every month we would prepare an article to go into our local bulletins because we felt it would be a good idea to educate our readers a little bit so they would be better prepared to participate in a fruitful consensus discussion.
That's a very long process. What happens then at the end of a study?
Well, the league studies an issue, say local zoning regulations. We read everything we can find to read on that topic. We talk to experts. We thoroughly learn all that we possibly can on that particular topic. Then we have a big membership meeting and we present our findings. The membership discusses the issues and they arrive at a consensus or agreement on certain items, and a position is established, and then action can be taken on that position. Action consists of lobbying, writing letters, having an information meeting, asking questions at town meetings, or asking questions at a village board meeting. Although the League does not support or oppose a candidate or a political party, as I said earlier, it does support and does oppose legislation after serious study and substantial agreement among its members. It uses many tactics and techniques to press for change and has taken legislative, litigative, and administrative action at all levels of government.
The first question in each segment of the program will be addressed to all the candidates by a representative of the League of Women Voters. First question, please.
Good evening. I'm Mary Joyce Berenger, President of the Larchmont League. In view of the fact that federal cutbacks have dramatically curtailed the effectiveness of the EPA, how do you view the county's role in dealing with hazardous waste, such as daily disposal of such toxic materials as used motor oil, cleaning fluids, and motor exhaust that affect air and water.
Now that we've found out how the studies are decided upon and organized, let's find out how we are doing in terms of studies right here in Larchmont. Joining us right now are Pat Latona and Edie Medoff, both who are members of a healthcare study group here in Larchmont, along with Mira Hiemstra and Suzanne Carpenter, whom you met earlier in the program. Mira, please tell us, what is it like to be involved in a study? How does it change your life?
Well, I guess I'd have to say first and foremost, it is a unique learning experience. In our study, which was national security, most of the committee members entered the study with pretty set opinions about certain things. However, after about 2 years of very intense involvement, I would say that most of us had changed most of our opinions about most of these issues. Then another thing I'd like to point out is that with a study of this scope, you really take a detailed look at some related areas. Things you find out that otherwise you'd never even have known the existence of. Another thing you learn is you learn to condense a wealth of material into a much shorter, meaningful whole. You also learn to present this meaningful whole to a large group of people in a very short period of time. Let me see, what else is there? Self-discipline. You need a lot of self-discipline. Let's face it, it's not always easy to find the time to do your reading, and once you've found it, the defense budget may not be the book you've longed to curl up with. But I guess my best memory is from working with the members of my group. Through mutual support and dedication, a task gets accomplished over a period of time, leaving each of us with a tremendous sense of achievement.
What was the aim of your study?
The aim of the study was to evaluate United States national security policies and their impact on domestic programs and our relationship with other countries. Now, for practical purposes, this study was divided into 2 one-year phases. Phase 1 dealt with arms control criteria and objectives, and this took place in the form of 3 questions. That phase was completed in June of 1983, and just last December, the National League came out with its position statement on this phase, and I'd like to read you a segment of that position. The League of Women Voters believes that arms control measures are essential to reduce the risk of war and increase global stability. Toward that end, the United States government should give the highest level of importance to arms control efforts that limit or reduce the quantity of weapons, efforts that limit proliferation and prohibit first use of nuclear weapons, efforts that prohibit first use and possession of chemical, biological, radiological weapons, and efforts that reduce tensions in order to prevent situations in which weapons might be used. As I said, this is only a small segment of that position. Then phase 2 was about military policy and defense spending. This time we answered 5 questions, and phase 2 was also completed. Its deadline was March 15. So we as committee members are really all finished, and at this point we are very eagerly awaiting the National League's position statement on the 2nd phase.
It's an impressive use of the democratic process. Suzanne, I understand that your league has embarked on a 2-year study on health care. Can you tell us, how did your group decide to do that study?
Well, our league members, as many Americans and New Yorkers, are very concerned about the escalating costs of health care. The average annual increase in health care costs has been far greater than the inflation rate since about 1968. New York State has a very complex and costly system of health care. In response to the very costly nature of this system, our legislators enacted in 1976 and 77 some sweeping controls over public and private health expenditures. As New Yorkers, we are presently at the vortex of pioneering experiences in cost containment and reform. Our members in New York State felt that the time was right for the League to assess the new regulations and the various proposals for reform. But you have to remember that regulations are a double-edged sword. Most New Yorkers would probably agree that they would like to contain costs through some sort of regulations, but very few would probably be willing to say that they'd like to sacrifice the quality or access to health care that might come about through regulation. This health care dilemma is a very key social and economic issue, not only for New Yorkers, but for all Americans. And this is the issue that we're confronting in our study.
Mm-hmm. It's a very complex issue. How do you intend to approach it? Can you give us a brief outline?
Well, during this first year of our study, we are primarily educating ourselves and the members of our league. We're looking at the overall healthcare system in Westchester and in New York State. We're looking at the providers, who provides the health care, hospitals, private physicians, nurses, what are the alternative systems to this the traditional providers? Who are the payers? Whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, or eventually, of course, all of us, the citizens. Who are the planners and who are the regulators? These are the sorts of things that we're looking at, the overall.
I heard you mention alternative providers. What does that mean? Is there such a thing in Westchester?
Yes, there is. We have a network of 4 neighborhood health centers in Westchester. 2 are under the auspices of the Westchester County Health Center. Those are found in Mount Vernon and in Greenburgh. The other 2, in Ossining and Peekskill, are independently licensed by the state. These 4 facilities are all located in areas designated by the federal government as medically underserved areas. Then in an HMO, which is another alternative health provider, the patient pays a fixed amount of money each month, just as you would to a traditional insurance company. And in return, the patient is entitled to unlimited use of a broad array of services, such as dental, pediatric, or hospital care. We do have one health maintenance organization in White Plains, and it is called the Westchester Community Health Plan.
Mm-hmm. So the difference between them, are they really a viable alternative in terms of cost containment?
Well, we made site visits and found that an HMO is a single entity which provides comprehensive health care services for a prepaid fee. An HMO, a health maintenance organization, as both a health insurer and a health care provider, contracts with enrolled subscribers to provide a range of health services. A neighborhood health center, on the other hand, is our primary multi-purpose out-of-hospital facilities. Their major focus is to provide comprehensive ambulatory medical and dental care in one setting. They provide health care to segments of the population which otherwise might not have access to such care. Both HMOs and neighborhood health centers appear to be a viable alternative to the health care system because there is a great emphasis on preventive care. There seems to be a decrease in the need for costly services. As we witnessed at the White Plains HMO and the Mount Vernon Neighborhood Health Center, not only is there emphasis on preventive medicine, but on the quality of the care that is given to its participants. When we interviewed Carol Morris, she is the director of the Neighborhood Health Center in Mount Vernon, she again stressed the importance of these kinds of centers and the particular kind of services that they provide to the people in the community and their importance.
Mm-hmm. Did she mention that there were any studies done to support the contention that, that these centers are actually
yes,
cost-effective?
there have been many studies done, as a matter of fact, concerning both the neighborhood health centers and the HMOs throughout the country. And yes, they are definitely able to contain the cost of health care, mainly through the emphasis on prevention. It keeps the cost down and it keeps people out of the hospitals.
So where do you go from here with your study?
Well, next year we'll be looking towards consensus, which Mary Joyce described earlier, member agreement, towards the late spring. We will step up our citizen education efforts, for one thing, and here in the committee we will be evaluating. We'll be looking at the effect of regulations on cost containment, on the quality of services. We'll be looking at the problems and solutions and coming up with some answers. In short, Kate, we will be adopting a position that will enable us and the leagues around New York State, throughout New York State, to lobby and to question our legislators. Somewhat like 2 years ago when we had when we adopted a position on the county medical center, which you probably remember, to be able to lobby and to move for change, to question.
Mrs. Charles Marion, I live in Mamaroneck. Would you please define your personal views on limitation of constitutional debt and then reconcile those views with your budget priorities regarding such expenditures as the Westchester County Medical Center and renovation or reconstruction of Westchester County Center, or the maintenance of sewers, bridges, and so forth?
As Mary Joyce mentioned before, the Observer Corps is a vital part of the function of the League. And representing the Observer Corps tonight for the town of Mamaroneck are Pat Latona and Kathy Seganolfi. I'd like to direct my first question, however, to Mary Joyce. Mary Joyce, how does the Observer Corps function?
Well, Kate, currently we have 7 members of the League of Women Voters who act as our Observer Corps. These members, always in pairs, attend town council, village board, school board, and committees and commissions as observers that meet in the town and village. By regular attendance at these meetings, an observer learns how a board or council functions and acquires an understanding of an issue. The observer keeps the membership of the League informed and informs the council or board of the League's positions on a particular issue before that board. The observers meet as a group every few weeks to exchange ideas and information and to decide if action is required by the League board or membership on a particular issue. For example, let's be a little ridiculous. Say the village board decided to sell the library and burn the books. Well, the village board observers would alert the League membership and we would take some action to support our position. Our position is that we believe that Larchmont should have a comprehensive library facility.
I see. Kathy, what are the environmental issues from your observations that the town council has to deal with?
Well, a prime environmental issue which the town councils and the village boards must seriously consider is any decision affecting the quality of life, such as a new office building, an apartment complex, or any major construction, be it residential or commercial. The town council and the village boards should at all times keep in mind the impact of such development on the environment. Prospective builders and developers should in most instances be required to submit environmental impact statements that would indicate the positive as well as the negative impacts of their projects on all aspects of the community. For example, one proposal for the former Pioneer site in Larchmont originally suggested a multi-story apartment building. In considering the impact of such a complex, especially the traffic impact, would have on that particular area of town, a scaled-down 2-story office building version with adequate on-site parking was accepted. Another example is the new office building on Palmer Avenue near Dirt Shopwell, across from Harrison Drive. The town council, in working with the builders, the Pine Brook Homeowners Association, and other interested parties, scaled that building down, as well as providing some on-site parking, which again minimizes the impact of this particular building on the surrounding residential community. In some instances, if new construction is to be considered, the town council and its boards may request the builder to construct additional drainage, grade property, provide adequate on-site parking and landscaping that would add to the ambiance of the area, as well as taking adequate measures to preserve our magnificent shoreline. The town council and the village boards, in working together with the Environmental Conservation Commission, the Coastal Management Commission, as well as the various neighborhood organizations, can maintain and improve all aspects of our environment. Long-range planning with coordination and communication among the three municipalities is very important.
What specific areas would you say need this careful long-range planning? Pat?
Well, an example of a major area that's in the forefront right now is the proposed Westchester County garbage transfer station to be temporarily located at the Maxwell Avenue station. An in-depth study should be done at this time by the town council and both village boards to assess the impact on traffic, noise, air pollution, and also the cost effectiveness. The necessity for long-range planning in this area is even more acute in light of the recent DOT noise level test along Interstate 95, which show that certain areas in Mamaroneck have decibel readings as high as 81. The decibel level acceptable for residential areas is 67. Another area where there is potential for traffic problems is over the Weaver Street Bridge, which crosses over the New England Thruway. This bridge is due to be closed in a few months, for a couple of months. Again, careful planning is needed to reduce congestion and assess the impact of alternate traffic patterns. A positive aspect of our long-range planning is our current recycling program. It is used as a model for other communities and is frequently commended for the many positive results of its recycling efforts.
You've used the words long-range planning several times now. Are there any tools that the town and village can use to encourage such careful long-range planning?
Well, yes, the League believes a master plan will contribute to the stability of the community and assure residents that their government is working for them to keep Larchmont the community that they love, a community of tree-lined streets and lovely houses. Both the town and village boards in 1966 had a master plan committee. They hired an independent firm to do a long-range study and develop an in-depth plan for the area. However, neither the village nor the town formally adopted the resulting documents. Again, the League feels a development of a master plan is necessary for the next 15 to 20 years, and it should be done by the municipalities. Such a plan would allow the community leaders to make intelligent choices concerning proposed development, allow for preservation of natural resources, and acquisition of open spaces. This would ensure the residents of this fine community that the quality of life that they have come to enjoy and demand would be maintained, that their property would only increase in value, and they would not become victims of urban blight.
Well, Mary Joyce, tell me, with all of the observations that the Observer Corps makes and all of the information that you gather, what do you do with all of this information once you have it?
We really want to educate ourselves, and also because we need the information to act on positions. We also use what we learn in studying a local issue. Then we arrive at a position in the process I described earlier. Much of the information we acquire is really just for our own personal education. However, the main aim is informing the public of the issues and keeping our government informed as to the League's positions. The Observer Corps helps formulate the issues we raise at our candidates' forums. The question is directed to all the candidates. The League feels that there are many important issues facing the village right now. One of them, perhaps the most important, is the fact that we're nearing the 2% taxing limit. What plans, suggestions, solutions do you have in the areas of planning and zoning, keeping in mind this 2% taxing limit?
We're nearing the end of our discussion of the League of Women Voters, and I would like to welcome Ann McAndrews, who is chairman of the Finance Committee, along with Edie Medoff, who is chairman of the Membership Committee, and you met Edie earlier in the program. I'd like to address my next question to Mary Joyce. What would you say is the most challenging problem facing the League of Women Voters today?
Well, like many volunteer organizations, we're experiencing a real shortage of people power. As more women pursue careers, the volunteer sector finds itself more and more pressed. Membership, gaining and keeping members is one big concern. The second one is familiar to everyone these days, that is money. Our activities of voter education costs money, and finding these dollars in the community is difficult. Our two major concerns then are membership and finances.
Edie, you're chairman of the Membership Committee. How do you reach out to your members?
Well, the League's name, address, and sometimes a phone number are stamped on almost any kind of piece of material that might fall in the hands of any prospective member in our community. On the other hand, names of prospective members are actively and regularly collected from neighbors and friends of League members throughout the year. People whose names are suggested are contacted and invited to meetings where special efforts are made to greet them and to make them feel welcome. The League has a reference section with many pamphlets and books that are available to the public that may be found in the Larchmont Public Library.
And how are the activities of the League introduced to the members?
Well, during the summer, we update our files and send invitations to prospective members and invite them to our fall membership teas. At that time, we explain how our League functions, its workshops, and ongoing activities. We also conduct an annual meeting during the year and a spring luncheon. Our new members rate special attention, and as such, they're interviewed and featured in our monthly bulletins.
Mm-hmm. And how does the League finance its activities?
Well, obviously, dues are number one source of funds. But beyond that sentence, there's a catch. 85% of our dues goes to the National League, goes to the State League, and goes to the County League. So we are left with 15% of our dues. So beyond that, our local league is forced to start finance drives.
Can you tell us a little bit more about finance drives?
Well, our finance drives our drive has several parts. The first is that on the state level, a tax-exempt organization has been established called the Foundation for Citizen Education. We call it the Ed Fund for short. This organization can accept tax-deductible contributions of $50 or more. So every year we have a solicitation for those contributions. However, the use of those funds is limited to educational functions on a community-wide basis. And there are some certain requirements established by the federal tax codes which do not give us the flexibility with the funds that we always would like. So therefore we go on to direct finance drives for our local league. Mm-hmm. And we have two different fund drives. First, we have a general finance drive mailing in the fall to over 600 Larchmonters, most of whom have given us funds in the past. Secondly, we have a mailing in conjunction with our voters' guides, and you must remember that last fall, we mailed out over 6,000 voters' guides, and in each one, believe me, each and every one, we sent out a request for financial help. Now these two drives, the private solicitation and also the solicitation through the general voters' guides, are our bread and butter. We receive contributions of all sizes. This past fall, I received several, just a single dollar bill in an envelope with no note, no name or address. Others we received from the voters' guide, especially included little morale booster notes saying how much we appreciate the voters' guide. It's the most important thing we have in order to come to a reasonable decision, and thanking us for our community service. Very, very much appreciated. Last but not least, we have the advertisers in our monthly bulletin. Now, we realize that local merchants are absolutely bombarded by requests to take out ads from everybody. All the organizations in our community, including probably the Mamaroneck High School yearbook. So therefore, we would like to say special thank yous to all our advertisers, and we can only mention a few of them now. They are Anderson's Bookstore, Bernier's Tailors, Embassy Cleaners, Kitterifics, Redwood Nursery, the Studio for Gifts, and Village Paint. These are only a few of our advertisers, and to all of them, a very sincere thank you.
Well, tell us, Mary Joyce, what can we then do as a community to help you achieve your goals?
Well, members of the community can help us and themselves in several ways. They can inform themselves of the issues by attending meetings, reading newspapers and magazines, and using TV and radio. We need the public to attend our forums, join the League, and support us financially. Every dollar is helpful to us in carrying out our aims. The community can help us, too, by keeping us informed as to the community's concerns. And lastly, everyone of voting age is invited to join the League of Women Voters.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your time and your interest with us. I sincerely hope that you will be successful in educating your members and the public in all of these very important issues that we've discussed tonight. And I know that the community is going to follow with great interest your progress and give you all of the support that you need. This concludes our program on Profile of an Organization, the Larchmont League of Women Voters. I'm Kate Richards for People and Issues. Good night, and thanks for tuning in.
picture you are seeing is a picture of lightning. To the ancients, lightning was a supernatural force. It was sent down from the skies by gods. Medieval people believed in this. They used to send people to the tops of churches with bells, try and scare away the demons. Few of them were electrocuted because they didn't know what lightning really was. It wasn't until an American statesman, Benjamin Franklin, did his famous experiment of flying a kite. He tied a key at the end of the kite and saw during a thunder and lightning storm, electric sparks jumped across. Scientists now realized that lightning is nothing more than electricity. Remember back in science class you studied the atom? And inside the atom there were protons and neutrons, and around the outside of it there were electrons. The electrons had a negative charge, the protons had a positive charge. Well, now scientists were able to understand that electricity travels from negative to positive. With this understanding, they turned to the atmosphere, and they looked at the clouds. And in looking at clouds, they were soon able to understand that clouds could build up a charge. They could build up a positive charge, and the earth could be negative, and the electricity would jump from the earth to the clouds. Or it could be reversed. The earth could have a positive charge, and the clouds could build up a negative charge, and the electricity would jump from the clouds to the earth. Man began to understand lightning, the powerful force it had behind it, the havoc and the destruction it could cause to the earth. With this basic knowledge, remember, whenever you know of a thunder or lightning storm coming, take cover.
Dark cumulus clouds, a rising wind, and a drop in temperature are all signs of an approaching storm. At the first sign of lightning, get indoors. Don't finish that last hole on the golf course. Those clubs and cleated shoes are excellent conductors of an electric charge in wide open spaces with no shelter are hazardous. If you can, get back to the clubhouse immediately. Some huts may not be safe. Don't stay on hilltops. They are hot spots in a storm. You don't want to be the highest point around. Lightning travels the easiest path to the ground, so don't shelter under an isolated tree. Their root systems carry charges too, so keep twice as far away from them as they are high. Avoid high points such as water towers and flagpoles. Church steeples are vulnerable, so they are well grounded. Lightning rods are always installed on historic sites and valuable trees. Metal-structured frames will act as conductors and will drain the bolt harmlessly to the ground. Trains, buses, subways are all very safe, as are airplanes. The metal bodies conduct lightning safely away from passengers. Small planes are, of course, more vulnerable to lightning in severe storms. Be aware that lightning can travel a great distance along metal fences and railroad tracks. A lightning bolt which strikes a mile away could surge through you if you happen to be walking on the tracks or on the fence. The same is true of metal pipes. If caught out in the open, crouch on all fours beside a stone wall or find a grove of small trees, preferably away from the water. You might look for a ravine, or a cave, or a ditch, or get under a bridge if one is nearby. If you're in your car, you're really quite safe. Pull well off the road if you can, away from large trees and overhead wires that might be hit by lightning. An ideal place is an underpass. Close your windows and turn your motor off. With the first signs of an approaching thunderstorm, you should stop all outdoor activity. Get indoors. Even if you just got the third man out and your team is up next. One of the safest places to be is in your own home. Or is it? In the house, close all windows and stay away from those facing large trees. it's a good idea to get off the phone, turn off your television set, and all unnecessary electrical appliances. Stay out of your tub or shower, too, and away from water pipes.
I think we'll continue our water play another time. There's a big storm coming. Thunder and lightning. Let's dry your hands.
Everybody out of the pool. And get off the beach and into your car as quickly as possible. Lightning can travel very long distances over the water and through the sand.
Come on, let's go. Daisy, Corey, it's going to be a tremendous lightning storm. Come, let's go. Let's go, honey, hurry.
And by the way, rubber boots will not insulate you if you're struck by lightning. Get off the open water as quickly as possible, especially if you are in a small boat which is not grounded. Be calm, don't be afraid, but be cautious.
We're out there racing. We don't necessarily head for shore right away. If it blows like the devil, we might drop the mainsail or even drop a jib and wait it out. But you keep your hands away from rigging and don't touch anything. We'll assume that your boat, the rigging has been grounded. It certainly should be. That is, you put copper wire or copper tubing from the ends of the chain plates where the shrouds and headstay and backstay touch the boat, and then they run to one of the keel bolts where they're securely attached to it, and any lightning then that might hit your boat will go through the rigging, through the copper tubing or wire, and down through the keel. I've actually seen boats sunk by a thunderstorm. If you're caught out in a storm, I think the smartest thing to do is to drop sail if it's blowing like the devil. Sometimes it blows very hard, sometimes it doesn't. But obviously, you should keep your hands away from any wire rigging. There isn't an awful lot else you can do.
If someone tells you to go fly a kite and there are dark cumulus clouds up there, don't do it. Remember Ben Franklin,